Hello, and welcome to the Adrienne Ross Show, a product of the BMG Network. So glad you're tuned in at thebmgnetwork.com, the BMG Network's YouTube channel, or a major podcast platform. It's time for another exemplary episode. So here we go. Welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show. I'm glad you're tuned in. And we're going to do things a little bit differently on the Adrienne Ross Show today. We've had our last, probably 3 weeks. I was going to say 2 weeks, but our last 3 weeks have been really deep episodes. We talked about marriage to a couple who's been married for almost 60 years. And then I spent the last 2 weeks talking about single life to single people, myself included. Today, we're going to take a break from that deep stuff, although it could get deep. And I'm going to answer some questions. I had some people submit some questions that they wanted me to answer. And so this is a Q&A episode. And I have a guest with me, Kiya Cordeau, and she's actually going to lead the way with sharing these questions that I've been asked. And I'm going to answer those questions. And you'll get to know a little bit about me. And I have a feeling probably a little bit about Kiya also. So I'm just going to turn this over to Kiya, and we're going to start the first Q&A episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, hopefully the first of many. So what did people want to know about me? You're going to find out shortly. All right, Kiya, what's up?
Okay, well, we might as well start with a bang, and let's get into some controversy because that's what we like to do here. So sometimes.
Yes.
What would you say to Christians that turn quote unquote woke? Obviously, I'll read the rest. Obviously, it's not me. I've been seeing people around me that grew up in church and loved God, though it seems, and now went completely opposite. Like it was all religious abuse, that Jesus was just a man and hell isn't real.
Wow.
So, the question again then.
Yeah.
What would you say to Christians that turned quote unquote woke?
You know, it's interesting, the hour we're living in. When I say the hour, I mean the times. The culture has changed so much, so fast, and it's a drastic change. And I honestly think that there is a spirit of deception that is running rampant. And so you find Christians who, like the question says, all their lives, they know the truth. Right. And now, did she say, or did he say that they're talking about hell's not real?
Well, this person said, I've been seeing people around me that grew up in church and loved God, though it seemed, and now went completely opposite. So I'm not sure if the person is saying, do they not love God anymore, or are they questioning their beliefs?
Right.
I'm not sure. It says like it was all religious abuse, that Jesus was just a man and hell isn't real. So is that I have some questions about the question.
Oh, questions about the question, right? Well, I'll just say this: if there's someone who is supposedly a Christian, and now they're saying that hell's not real, then they've lost sight of the very source of their faith, and the source of their faith is that the Word of God is the truth. You know, and the truth says that God is real and so is hell, you know. So we cannot allow the culture to dictate what we know is true. And I believe that's a fight that we're going to have to battle because it's everywhere. You know, the way that things have changed, the woke stuff has been even it's sort of like, it's loving to be woke, you know, and if you're not woke, then you're not really a Christian because you don't really love. And to that, I often say, y'all better read the way Jesus handles some stuff.
That's right.
You know? And like Jesus would say, you know, you twice dead, plucked up by the roots. You know, there were ways that he dealt with stuff. And a lot of people want to make him like a very, very sissified and all that. No, he wasn't. He didn't allow the culture to dictate truth. And so what do I say? I say that people need to get back to the basics. And the basics are, what does the Word say? What does Jesus say? And that's what should drive us. If that's what the question is asking, then it sounds to me like people are deceived. Or if she's saying they don't love the Lord anymore, then I would say, then we need to repent, and we need to we need to pray for people that they love the Lord again.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, now, do you think that the question is really asking about, I guess when I first read the question, I thought, well, what do you mean by woke? Because woke can be, that's subjective. So that I think in of itself holds several questions. And then, of course, like you said, if people are just rejecting God, then clearly that's, you reject God, that's anti-God. But, so that's anti-Christ. Therefore, you're not a Christian. So, putting that piece aside, what do you mean by woke?
Right. That's a good question. And the person who posed that question can follow up and touch base and clarify. Right. This is when you kind of wish that you had like a show where there could be people who submit questions and they're right there, and so you can ask for that clarification, which we don't have the opportunity to do. But what do you mean by woke? That's a good question. So with the knowledge, with the information that I have, that's the answer that I have, that we're not about being woke. True awakening is following what the Lord says. If you're talking about following every new thing that the culture throws out, then, all I have to say is no, we got to get back to what's true.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
Good answer. I think you have to get out to your listeners that you need to follow up.
Yeah.
I want to know more about the question. I want to know more about where it's coming from.
I agree. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Next question. Yes. Let's see. Adrienne, I'd like to know what you think about what's happening with the Republican Party. My opinion is that I'm going to have to use my glasses on this one.
Sure.
My opinion is that it has spiraled into immorality. I turned independent the minute the party pledged allegiance to Trump, who I consider a poor excuse for a man. Then they ran last year with no problem. I think they are beyond repair.
What was the last part? Not the beyond repair part, but they ran last year with no what?
Then they ran last year with no platform.
With no platform. Okay.
Beyond repair.
There's a lot in that there. Okay. There's what in the world is going on with the Republican Party, and then there's the obvious disdain for Donald Trump, and then of course I'm assuming this person is referring to the midterm elections and what a mess that was, which some people think it didn't turn out the way people expected. So I'll start with what is the problem with the Republican Party. The problem with the Republican Party is the same thing that's the problem with the Democratic Party, and that is that both parties are a mess. Right? Both parties are a hot mess made of people, and so for anyone who has looked to a politician or politics to be the answer, then we're going to be disappointed. And there is the establishment in the Republican Party, and I think that they're only concerned about preserving their seats and their power, and I'm not saying everyone, because even though I say we're not looking to a politician for the answer, I do believe in backing politicians who truly have a servant's heart. And I don't like when I hear people say that all the time, that no politician is to be trusted. I just don't believe that. I believe that God places people in different areas to represent him. And I believe there's some people who are trying to do that, but the establishment, Republican Party or otherwise, can be a problem, can be so rooted into the status quo, into going along to get along, and into preserving power more than caring about people and making sound decisions. And that is an issue with this Republican Party as well, And it seems to me that question is attached to the support of Donald Trump, because he obviously doesn't hold up to this person's idea of a good person. What did the person say? He's a poor excuse of a man?
A poor excuse of a man. Choice words.
Yeah. Well, I know that Donald Trump rubs a lot of people the wrong way. I take exception to that comment that he's a poor excuse of a man. Mm-hmm. I think that Donald Trump is, he's very bold. He's brazen. Mm-hmm. He's a counterpuncher. He is, he says a New York fighter. But I would never describe him as a poor excuse of a man, because I've got to look at where he stands on the issues. Mm-hmm. I can't, in this hour we're living in, I can't put personalities over policy and over love for country. Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that if you're going to take a swipe at Donald Trump, knowing him as we do, that he is bold and brazen, all that, then you should expect that he's going to fight back. Does he have a perfect past? No, but most people don't, but I do believe that he is a man of character. And from what I understand, he is a man who is open to the Lord and who keeps people of faith around him who are praying for him. And he has tried to take a stand for things that matter to Christians, our religious freedoms and the unborn, and I mean, so I respect him. I respect him for that. And so I don't know, the poor excuse of a man, I don't know if that's his past and talk about different issues with relationships, and I don't know if that's the meaning, that's the thing about it. But that's also like people who are like, well, Donald Trump is, he used to be pro-abortion and all that. And I'm like, if we're going to be people who believe that they're going to pray and believe for change, then when there is a change, we should be glad.
Change, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
people can change, and that's okay. So
yes.
Yeah, I agree.
And people can change, and we either believe it or we don't. Now, I know some people change according to, what they're running for or who they're trying to, pander to and stuff. But I believe that he has been steady on his positions. And so I think he was a good president, and so I know people like, well, I think character matters and all that, personality matters. And yeah, Donald Trump, sometimes he says things that you're like, you really didn't have to do that. Or he punches down and I'm just like, just let that go, But I would take that, because we need a fighter right now.
That's
I would take that.
You said it. Both sides, both parties are a hot mess. And we've got to go back to George Washington, who warned the founders, do not create parties. You're going to bring division. And we see that over and over and over again, year after year. And so you have a man like Donald Trump, who's a warrior, who's not going to back down, who's not going to be afraid. He's not going to be bullied, if you will. He's just not going to do it. And you send him to Washington and he stirs up the muck and the mire and the swamp. He's a swamp stirrer. He's not only a swamp stirrer, he kills the giants. So you can't ask for a giant killer and not expect it to be bloody. You just can't.
That's good.
What do you want? So I think he served a purpose for that time and for that season. Who knows what's next? Will he make a comeback? That's another question. In terms of the Republican Party, I love. I heard recently, love that you take a stand for something. We know that the Republican Party, everything that the Republican Party stands for, is not correct. It's just not, because because it's partisan. And so if you are pressed and pushing people against a wall to say vote this way because it's Republican, not because it's right, then that just makes it wrong. Right.
Exactly.
Or correct. So, I mean, in the same thing with Democrats, so we can't, you can't be for the people and for your constituents in the continental United States and say, oh no, I'm voting every way, in every instance, Republican or even Democrat, because it doesn't satisfy the needs of all the people of the country. I mean, that's right. The bottom line.
Yeah. And you know what, one thing I do, like you said, about George Washington and not having division. See, I'm one of those people who people are like, oh, so-and-so is so polarizing. And I'm like, yeah, that's because there should be a dividing line between light and dark. And there are some areas that we can be bipartisan with,
right.
and we can talk out and we can compromise.
Right.
There are some areas you just light and dark. So I should be polarizing because there should be a difference, you know. But in the Republican Party, when you have, you know, your Mitch McConnells, you know, who appear to be snakes and, you know, like a snake in the grass. So, and you know, it's time for the midterm elections, and you pull money out, you know, from the new guard, you know, so that you can preserve people who are in your, you know, back pocket.
That's right.
A lot of dirty wheeling and dealing and all this other stuff that went down in the midterm elections, that people want to go, well, it didn't come out the way we wanted to come out, or we didn't have a platform, we didn't have this or that. You know, we also didn't have leadership. That's right. Who did the right thing, you know, who took people's donations that they put in and put it and removed them at a key moment to put somewhere else to preserve people like your Lisa Murkowski's, et cetera. So, it's a hot mess. It really is. And as far as being, you know, here in where I live, you don't register as a particular party, you know. So I kind of like that, because in New York, I couldn't be an independent. I could have, but I wanted to vote in the primary. I don't want to have what's left. I want to have something to say about what's there to begin with, you know. But other than that, I could have been an independent, except the Republican Party's platform, as it is stated, is a good one. It's just that, what are they doing with it?
That's right.
You know, so
are you sticking with it?
Yeah, that was a long way around that question.
Right. Yeah, that's it. Well, you know, I think can we kind of go back to that, you know, kind of piggyback on the previous question is on what's happening with the Republican Party in our idea of wokeism. You know, I'm in the state of Florida, and our governor is taking a serious stand, and he's getting, of course, all the flack for it. So, I mean, I'm kind of hoping that he doesn't run for president just so we can keep him in Florida.
Yeah.
I like to keep Governor DeSantis a little bit longer, but, you know, really fighting for wokeism, that we can't be emotionally driven, and that our platform, you know, is that something that you see the Republican Party fighting against in a general way, or should it be isolated? How specific should that wokeism ideology be fought against in the Republican Party?
How specific? You know, in other words, you're saying there are certain things that are called wokeism that are not necessarily woke, but the right thing?
Or, you know, is that part of the party platform? You know, where this writer asked, or listener asked, you know, what do you think about what's happening with the Republican Party? I mean, there's definitely that fight across the nation of, you know, fighting against wokeism. Is that a light and dark, black and white issue that we say we separate all wokeism, or is there some, you know, are there some gray areas?
Yeah. Well, I think you're probably going to have differences of opinion on what is woke, what is being woke. Like, for example, I just wrote a column because Super Bowl, you know, did the Black national anthem, and then the national anthem. And I'm not going to get into the whole column of it, but, you know, Kari Lake, who was the candidate for governor of Arizona, you know, the media is all abuzz because she's seen sitting there during the Black national anthem, leg crossed, you know, hands on her face and not standing, you know. And my position on that, and I said, I know my position is going to make the Black liberals upset, and it's also going to tick off conservatives, because my mindset is I do not agree with the Black national anthem being played at the Super Bowl or sporting events. And the reason for that is the reason why they're doing it. And that is, these people couldn't give a lick, probably some of them never heard of it before, but it's the whole woke agenda. It's the whole, you know, let's apologize for what we never did, but our ancestors did. And, you know, the Black Lives Matter thing. And it's this whole thing, you know, that they're trying to do. So I'm not in agreement with that.
Absolutely.
But I do not agree with Kari Lake sitting down through it, because she said, well, you know, I was there for the national anthem and we only have one national anthem. And sure, we do. but we stand for other reasons. We stand for songs that we don't, that aren't, I mean, it just seems pick your battles,
Right.
and I don't think it would have made her a hypocrite to just stand. There are people who don't want to do the Pledge of Allegiance. They don't want to say it for whatever reason. They don't care for the Star Spangled Banner for whatever reason, but they just stand. They don't sing it. They don't say it. They just show respect. I think for her, if she had a true heart, conviction, then follow your conviction. Or were you just trying to make sure nobody thought you were woke? That's one of those lines that I have there.
Yeah, that's a good it's a good framework to look at it and say, okay, what are we really doing here? What are we accomplishing? What are we trying to accomplish here? Are we trying as a collective, responsible citizens of the most amazing country in the world, trying to bring people together in unity? All of those things can be argued in the face of these daily tweets and daily little idiosyncrasies that people just want to fight about.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. And again, I don't like the reason behind it, choosing it, but I don't like the response. I just think it was necessary, But anyway, all right. So I hope we answered your question.
Yeah, well, and if not, you have to write her back. Okay.
Yeah.
You are in answering that question. So that's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to give a piggyback on that.
Okay.
We never get to the point where we would introduce another party, a successful party, an independent party. If Bernie Sanders has his way.
Bernie Sanders.
Will we ever get rid of that bipartisan
A two-party system?
System, yes.
Whenever you bring that up, I've done some commentary on that. Whenever you bring that up, people are like, no, because that person won't be able to win, and they're only going to split the vote. And, and I understand that because been trying to get in the battle with the whole ranked choice voting and I've also talked about how that splits the vote. So I get the point of not wanting to split the vote. However, I have been a person who, I'm on record as saying I'm tired of both of them. And there are some people, there are few people, who could mount a third party run. I think those people are few and far between, but I think it could be done. And I don't like the idea. People it's like they have us over a barrel. Well, we can't have that because you need the financial backing. If you're a Republican, you need to run as a Republican because you need the financial backing of the party. Well, Mitch McConnell just told us we can't count on that, or you need people to get behind you and speak in your corner. Well, ask Sarah Palin about how much people stood behind her in the establishment. So are we trying to be true to people in a system that's not true to people who are really trying to stand for what we should be standing for? So I think the right people could do it. I think a Donald Trump could do it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
Yeah, I think a Sarah Palin could do it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think if this generation, I teach high schools, juniors and seniors, and we're constantly talking about how do we change this, and I question their questions with questions and make them ask questions and see if they can come up with an answer. And so, we have talked about lots of controversial things, guys. What do we do about this? And I think if this generation would learn some things, learn what the democratic process is really about, and not get stuck in the emotions, not get stuck in wokeism, not get stuck in what little pieces of information they see on social media, and really learn something, they could really take the country into a whole new area of working the real democratic process. Okay, where everyone really has a vote. where we say, okay, this is what, these are the people, this is what the people from the constituents from New York want. This is what constituents from Florida want, those in Missouri, this is what our people want. This is what our neighborhoods need. This is what our communities need. And, so I'm challenging my young people. I'm like, you're the leaders. Come on, you can do this. So,
and that's, I like hearing that from you. And she says she's a teacher, but your major was also political science as an undergrad. So yeah, it's good to have you. It's good to have you chiming in on that. But I long for people who truly, and it might take some of us people, who really don't want to do it. Maybe the Lord is calling some people to do that. I mean, George Washington, he didn't want to necessarily serve, and those are probably the people we need to serve.
That's right.
They see the need, they hear the call, and they respond, even though it's a sacrifice to do that. All you got, and you can think whatever you want of it. But Kevin McCarthy, it took 15 votes, for him to be speaker? At what point do you say, I'm listening to the people, here even, and I back down off of that? I'm gonna fight this thing to the end. Was that the right decision to make? You decide, but it just looked a little self-serving to me.
Right. Well, we'll see what kind of shakeup actually happens, what kind of movement we have going on there. Are we going to waste taxpayers' money? We'll see.
Good.
That leads me to my next question. Let's see. We've got a couple of in here. Have you ever thought, I got to find it now. Let's see. Would you ever consider running for a local political office?
I don't want to. I think I'm at the,
I said, Adrienne.
I've had people ask me about that. I've had other people ask me. I've had people say that they would like me to. I've had people say they feel I'm called to, and I don't want to. So, but that doesn't mean anything. Like if I really feel that oh my goodness, I'm gonna say if there's an open door, I'll walk through it, right? But I really, and that's not what I'm saying at all. But if I really felt like the Lord wanted me to do that and made that very plain,
right?
I'd like to believe I have an obedient heart, and I would do that. Sometimes I think about, I'm like, well, that sounds pretty good, because a lot of people judge a call by the outcome of something. And I'm not one of those people. Like, people will laugh at somebody who say, I really felt called to do this, and they didn't win. And then the haters will laugh because they'll say, well, obviously, you said you were called, but you didn't win. But see, God doesn't think like we think. Sometimes you're called to do something because of the impact that you're making as you're doing it. Right. The platform, the word, you can speak truth and all that. Not to say that God always wants us to lose, because I'm tired of losing these things. I want some of these people to win who need to win. But sometimes I'll think about it and go, I'd love to be able to have an opportunity on a bigger stage, not to pat myself on the back, but where I have more voices to be able to speak and make a difference, and be able to inspire people. But there's more to governing than making speeches and inspiring people, right? So the answer is I would, if I felt called to, but I feel more called to back other people who are certainly called to that arena, more than doing it for myself. But I have reason to believe that maybe down the line, it might be a situation where it has been modeled for me, and then for me to pick up the ball and then run with it.
Well, honestly, as you're talking, I'm thinking of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who didn't seek out to be the face of the civil rights movement, but the movement came to him and he had to move. So we'll just see how the Lord moves you. Yeah.
Well, I'll share this, and people have heard me in the podcast. That I know that the Lord does speak through dreams and stuff. And so someone had come to me, oh goodness, it's over a year now, maybe a year and a half ago, almost. Yeah. And she'd had a dream, and it was a dream about me being running for governor of Missouri. And it came in there was like a letter I read it not that long ago, but it came in like a letter from the people. And she was somehow in my office area with me. And I was like, no, no, no. I'm like, no. And so they were wanting me to run and I was resisting. And so then, they were calling on me and everything. And so at some point, and then they offered me like, there was it was money or it was something they offered me. And I'm like, it was like, because we need you, and I was like, how can I turn this down? How can I turn this down? And then I agreed to do it. And that she was saying I was going all these places and I was making speeches and there were two people running. She explained like the other two were running and the whole thing. It was really, really fascinating. But I eventually said yes, because it's what she was like, they're calling for you. They want you, and I eventually said yes in her dream. And everything, it's more to it, but fascinating. So I don't know, maybe, what do you think? Can you see me run? You know me now. This is Kiya. Kiya and I have been friends forever. We went to college together. We were roommates after college, in college too, and after college. I mean, we're sisters to the bone, right? So you know me very well. I don't know. What do you think?
I think, like I said, I think if I don't think it's something that you would seek out, but if the situation arose where you couldn't stay quiet about it and it propelled you to that level, then yeah, I can definitely see it. But I know that's not something that you are gonna, you're gonna lay out. Okay, this is happening. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how God moves you.
Yeah.
Comes your way. I do think that you will be that you are a voice to be reckoned with. To create. To bring clarity when the waters are muddy, when things are, when things need more clarity, so we'll see how you bring that. You are an influential speaker and writer. So, what do they say? This will date us a little bit, right? E.F. Hutton speaks.
Yeah, people listen. People listen, right? Well, that for a good while, I had a dream at one point. I don't mean a dream of a sleeping dream, a goal at one point to be a speechwriter. And I've done some writing of speeches, but I mean, a speechwriter for like a president or and the press secretary. I've had those, but that's a lot of heat, that press secretary thing. So that's no longer really on my bucket list. So I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no. I'm not saying no, but it's not something that's on my list. It could be added to my list, but.
Well, then the next question that goes to my next question is one a listener wrote in is do you have any other goals?
Any goal? Other goals other than what I've done already? Yeah. I'm goal oriented. Well, I like to say I'm results oriented. I don't want to go after goals for the sake of going after goals. I'm really God oriented in the sense that I truly want His will for my life. And of course, you have dreams and goals and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm going to write more books. Would I call that a goal? Only because it's painful. I know it's a painful process, but I know that's a part of, what I do, not just the writing of articles and stuff, but probably more books. I shouldn't say probably, more books. So that's a goal. I have the platform, obviously, right here, the Adrienne Ross Show, but I'd like to see that expand and reach more people. So that's a dream of mine, a goal of mine to have the support to be able to do more of what I do, which I believe is important, and ultimately my biggest goal is that everything that I do, God uses these different areas, the 7 mountains, as they call them. Some people are in education like you are, and I used to be. Some people are in media, some people, whatever. If it's the political arena or whatever it is, I want to see people's lives change for the Lord. So and I don't know how those two things go together, all the time. But the ultimate goal in my life is to bring honor to God and to be an influence in other people coming to know God and being strengthened. And that's the biggest goal of my life. So to preach the gospel, absolutely. To draw souls to Jesus, absolutely. To write more books, and there are some goals that I have that I'm not willing to share yet. So, but I'm pretty much an open book for the most part, meaning you can kind of look at my life and tell what matters to me.
Right. Right. And you're consistent. So to that end, by the way, this person wrote, before she wrote, do you have any more goals to reach? She said, you are a beautiful person inside and out. And so I thought we should share that as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So to that end, in all the things that you do, you're a writer an editor for Breitbart, you're you're an author, an acclaimed author here. You are, and your goal obviously is to write more books. There's so much more in you, of course. We've got our fantastic Push Your Way to Purpose, and I feel like it's going to be even pushed more to the forefront. And our famous Analma books, which is great. Yeah. And the column, the podcast, helping in the political arena here and there. So how do you get it all done? That's the next question. What does your weekly schedule look like?
I don't sleep a lot.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it. And
yeah, I don't sleep a lot, and so I manage. I don't know how wise this is, but I manage to operate on very little sleep, and so that enables me at times to write my column or to record the podcast or my mind is always going. I've had people say to me, like, and I'm a John Maxwell certified speaker, trainer, and coach. So I was doing a whole lot of masterminds and coaching of, individuals and things like that. And it was never ending. Sometimes I would have like a mastermind group somewhere, and then I was rushing home because I had a virtual one after that, and then there's reading and preparation for that, in addition to all the reading that I do as an editor at Breitbart. So there's all that stuff. So, but I've had people who have said to me in the past, you have to slow down, you have to. And I'm like, this is what fuels me though.
Right.
And so I don't want to not do what I feel called to do and what fuels me. So what is my week like? I don't know. The good thing is on my full-time job, they have carved out some time for me to work my business. And that includes when I was out speaking, which I took the year off from the speaking and the masterminds and the coaching because of the surgery. And I'm still recuperating from all of that. So I'm slow to get back moving. But they carved out some time so that I could do some of the business stuff, go into businesses and do training and everything. Mm-hmm. So that's on a weekly level. But then with all the medical stuff, I find that time that was carved out for my business is being spent at doctor's appointments, Oh, yeah. So I don't know how to define that. It just depends. There's a lot of time I spend in front of this computer and thinking and planning and writing or whatever. I couldn't give a set schedule, of how my day goes from beginning to end. It can be chaotic,
How do you prioritize? Maybe that's a good question. Since your week fluctuates, how do you prioritize all those things to get, to categorically get everything done that you desire to get done? I mean, you're the most productive person I think I know. I'm lured by that is I get ready to as I'm trying to line things up to launch different things, businesses and things in my life, I'm thinking, how does Adrienne do all this?
Yeah, I think my answer is I just do it. So, you know what I mean? Like I just I just do it. Now I do, like I said, I probably need to rest more. I probably need to make sure that I'm not eating dinner at midnight, which sometimes happens. You know, I got these cats who are like, you see one right there. If I can point there, you know, I don't know where the other one is, but you know, believe it or not, I mean, I don't have any children, you know, but believe it or not, sometimes I'm working at the computer and they're just like, we want to run and play, you know? And so I know that sounds weird, but you know, that's a responsibility too. And I just keep going until I can't, till I'm done, till I run out of hours, you know, and I manage to get stuff done. I have a column that people subscribe to and pay for. So it's got to be done, you know, and I have to, and I am driven to do what I feel I'm supposed to do. And that's why with the podcast here, there are times when I'm like, there are times I could say I'm not doing it this week. It's not like I'm at the point now where I'm going to have 10,000 people saying, where are you? I probably have to remind them that I wasn't on that day, you know? And so it's not that way, but I believe in being consistent, and it is a passion, you know? And so I do it. And obviously, Lord, he's got to be a priority. Obviously prayer needs to be a priority. And it's like, he enables me to do what I do. And there's always like something else. Like, I mean, I have an online school, which I don't have to do anything for it. It runs itself, but I had to create it, you know? And there's that, but my mind is always going, and I'm not afraid to try.
That's excellent.
So how do I get it done? The grace of God and working. They always say, if you're an overnight success, it took you years and years to become an overnight success.
That's you know, right. That's a good statement. Excellent, yeah. Excellent. Well, okay then. So your encouragement to the rest of us slackers, I guess, is that come on, get it together.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
The main thing is that you're passionate. You know, that's clear. Is that we are going to do, you know, we as in people are going to do anything that we are passionate for. We're passionate for it. It's going to get done.
Exactly. And here, I'll just be vulnerable here. There are times when I honestly think, why am I doing this? Mm-hmm. Like, who really, like, sometimes you're just like, people really don't even care about what you're doing, or you expect to have a certain impact or influence, or you're really trying, and it's like nothing is working. Like nobody's thinking cares, or, you know, and so sometimes I just want to just like, what's it all for? But I know in my spirit that in spite of what I might see or not see now, I know what God has said and what passion he's put in me. Mm-hmm. So although I can't see the end of like, when is it going to really matter? You know, I have to know that I just have to be consistent and just do what he says to do, and the doors that he opened, and allow somebody's going to be touched. If it's just one person, you know, absolutely touched, then that's one person who's touched. So I just keep walking.
Awesome. Well,
and you know what? And let me just say this too. And I realize what may make me different from other people, if that's a way to say it, is that I know I don't wait until I feel fully qualified to do something. Mm-hmm. And I don't wait until the right time, because I joke and I say the right time is a lot like the right man for me, just hasn't come yet. You know, there's no right time. It's just the time. And if I wait to do it, it's the law of, the law of diminishing intent. The longer I wait to do what I know I need to do, the least likely I am to do it. Yeah. So I don't have to be 100% qualified. I have to be willing and passionate and do it.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. That should be on the byline. Yeah. One of the bylines of if I wait for it to be an expert, to be capable, to be whatever, I'm just not going to do it, you know? Yeah. So just do it. Okay.
Just do it. And that didn't really answer the question about my schedule, but you know.
Well, I think we got a good look. You know, you have to put one foot in front of the other and get everything that needs to be done.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Let's see. Let's go talk about family and relationships here. Yes. How are you able to maintain?
I'm here, everybody. I'm plugging in my phone. Sorry.
Okay. How are you able to maintain a positive, loving relationship with family members and friends whose ideologies are vastly different from yours?
Mhm. Well, people are people. People are not people are people. People are not tools. People are people. I mean, we love people. It's not, if you've got an ideology, if you've got something you're doing or working on, ultimately it's about people, right? Hopefully a country which is made up of people, or a church which is made up of people, or whatever. And so, yeah, there are people whose ideologies are vastly different, and sometimes I get attacked as a result of that, verbally attacked, comments and stuff like that. They come, and it can be hard to love some of those. So it can feel hard to love some of those people, but you kind of just like, oh, I don't know any better, and it's not going to stop me from doing what I do and speaking what I believe I'm supposed to speak. And so you love because you know what? I'm loved. I don't know. People are, they're family members who don't have the same political leanings I have. Number one, we don't talk about it. That helps keep the peace,
Right.
But number two, I've seen people who just friendships were torn apart, like over elections. And I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Right. At the end of the day, we're family or we're friends, and this politician's going to come and go and do what they do. And so I don't want to end relationships. It's been heated at times, but I love that person for who that person is. So I don't know how else to answer that.
Well, I think that's good. I think you're right. I mean, we're not going to always agree with everybody that we love or that we come in contact with clearly. And, and I think having an open and honest discourse is good for the mind and good for the heart, and then having the capacity and the control to still love somebody, to still appreciate them, to look beyond what they may or may not agree with. And, we're still human. You're right.
Absolutely.
Answer.
All right.
Okay. I think this might be the last. Oh, no, there's two questions.
Two more. Okay.
Let's see. This is an interesting question. This is a spiritual question, if you will. It says, have you ever had a dream where you move or flap your arms like a bird and you fly up in the air? I believe I have these dreams when someone prays for me. Tell me what you think. Do you think God would give us the book of Revelation and not allow us to understand it?
Well, God, they're talking about dreams, which I mentioned earlier. God does speak through dreams. And so God uses symbols, you could say, somebody just asked me yesterday, I think it was, we were talking about a dream, and they're like, why doesn't he just make it just straightforward? Like, why dreams? But, you look in the Bible and he used symbols and stuff. And I've heard people say over and over again, and whether this scripture is being used accurately, takes some digging into, but I've heard everyone who talks about dreams, they talk about this passage of scripture that says, it's the glory of the Lord to conceal a matter. It's the honor of kings to search it out. Okay. And that God desires that we search things out, and so we seek God as far as what that dream means. He obviously sees a pattern, when they, with the dreams. And so, the Bible also lets us know that the interpretation belong to the Lord, right? So the Lord has the interpretation. So we need to seek him. If we don't know, then we have to seek him and trust that he's not, with Revelation or anything, book of Revelation or anything else, God's desire is not to confuse those who are his. It's not his desire. So if he gives us something, he expects us to understand it, and that sometimes takes time and learning how God speaks to us. There are things that I learned and continue to learn, particularly when it comes to dreams. There's certain ways that the Lord will communicate to me. And I've learned over time I'm still learning a lot, but the little I've learned over time how God will speak to me about certain things. Revelation, no. I guess there's some things we're not going to understand until God reveals it, and then there are other things that we search and seek out and pray about and we get revelation of, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. The Bible says that that we see through a glass darkly. So we may not see the whole picture. We may not understand. And if you live long enough, you realize, I have no idea why it happened the way it happened, why it didn't go the way that I anticipated, or, why God healed this but didn't heal that, or healed it this way, or, move this person here or move that, so there are probably hundreds or thousands of things that we may not understand in this life, but you says, but one day, the scripture tells us that when we are changed, then that we will understand it. My dad loves that song. We'll understand it better.
By and by. By and by. Yeah. Exactly. We can go old school. Kiya and I used to stick a couple songs together.
I think I'll probably always, when I reflect on those things, when I try to understand something, that just at the end of a thing, trying to understand why it went down that way, why it happened that way. I'm like, okay, God, I'm not you. That's ultimately that's it. But I love what you said about seeking, the scripture that talks about seeking a matter out, seeking God, and He's not the author of confusion. So, have peace. My husband loves to say this, whatever you have, if there is peace on it, know that is a really good parameter by which you.
So true.
Because He's not the author of confusion. He's not anything, any dream or any situation that's meant to torment you. That's not from God. So
Follow peace. That's the answer. And I think when it comes to certain things too, God gives us little tidbits and we have to steward them well. That's like even dreams. And people are like, oh, I'm having this dream and I think it's the Lord, or whatever it is. And yet we don't take the time to write it down. So we forget, we don't pray over it. And so it's like, we wonder why sometimes, not saying the case with the person who posed this question, but sometimes we don't have the answer, but are we really seeking the Lord about it, praying about it, and stewarding it? And I think there are a lot of times when God's trying to get our attention with things that we think it's just the pizza that I had, that's, or it's just this and that. I think there's a lot more of an attempt by the Lord to communicate with us than we will realize at times. And so we don't steward those things well. And we have to seek the Lord. Some things are clear, some things are not. Right away. Anyway, yeah.
That's true.
You got one more?
One last question is,
okay,
your worst regret in life?
She saved that one for last. Yeah. What is my worst regret in life? Yeah. I think I have more than one regret, but I'm going to say that right up there, if not the worst, is certainly close. And that is not long after college, my and Kiya, we were in the church together there, and we were having the church was having a revival. And so during that time, if I remember correctly, it was during that time that my brothers, my brothers have the same mom. We have a different mom, but their mom passed away. Their mom died. And I didn't go to the funeral. These are young boys, and I don't know, I want to say this right. But I somehow had the thought, I somehow had the mindset that the right thing to do was to be at church, because that's kind of the expectation and kind of what you did at the time. And there are things like that I look back on and I go, I was feeling like I'm supposed to be there because I was expected to be there. Mm-hmm. But if I had to do it all over again, I would be there with my brothers who were young to be with them when we're saying goodbye to their mother, when they're dealing with the loss of a mother. And so, and, sometimes you wonder how much that weighs into how relationships end up and stuff, those things. And I don't know, but if I had to do it again, I would be there for them. And then it was a similar experience, is a regret too, with my aunt. She had surgery, but I was expected to be back in church. And so I went to be with her after the surgery, but I left before she was really well enough where I should have left. But I was pretty much, like I said, expected to be back. And I did. I came back. And I wish that, my aunt was fine, and everything. This is many, many years ago. I was in my early 20s and I was trying to do the right thing. So there were things where I feel like I thought I was honoring God in my life by honoring authority in my life. Mm-hmm. But I just don't think it was the right decision. Not to not honor the authority, but to honor the other people. And it's touchy,
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough. I think growing up in, we have similar backgrounds, and growing up in very strict, very strict environment, we kind of, look at things between black or white, and we're like, okay, so this is right and this is wrong. And, and we realize later, I realized later that, that was not what God was saying at all. And, and so that is it, to me, has been shocking, in kind of in line with what you're saying. I wish I had I looked at it with the right filter or the right glasses, with God glasses, then, instead of my peepers, with God glasses, that situation could have done right. But my daughter said recently, she's 24 and she's, God is just dealing with her heart. And she said, I realized that everything that I've gone through in my life had to happen. It happened. It didn't have to happen, but it happened for a reason. And, it's not going to go wasted. And, and I was thankful for those wise words that she said. But, as a parent, looking back, like, oh, man, had I done this way, man, that may have had such a different outcome. And of course, it would have been different. If we don't know if it would have been better, just different. Right? I mean, who's to say? You can't settle on that. But, and having, it's so important, really, in all the questions that were asked of you tonight, to have the right glasses on. What glasses are we wearing?
That's so true. And, when you look back to, when we're wearing those, whatever glasses we're wearing at the time, it doesn't have the capacity for us to see into the future, and so it can be tricky. And especially when there's so many moving parts to certain things, like the regret with, I was kind of stuck, you're kind of like stuck because you got this that you're trying to answer to, and then you've got this where your heart's pulling you, and and I think there's so many things perhaps that have been done in the name of doing the right thing. And the Lord was like, that wasn't what I was required to do, and God can, even things that we fall on our faces, that God, it's like, God's like, I get it. I understand the situation you're in, but that doesn't change the fact that it doesn't impact sometimes the relationships that we have with people. So I don't know that I have a lot of regrets. Perhaps I do, but I don't have a whole lot of huge regrets. There are some others that are just between me and the Lord, but I just thank God for his grace and his mercy. But if that's a regret, because, my brothers, their mom, that not being there for them.
Sure.
Nah, don't like that at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is the grace and the mercy of God that we can go on. But what's encouraging, I think, is that other people, we're not alone. Other people have gone through, can look back and say the same thing. And as people get older, they're going to also be able to say, oh, yeah, and it may not have been this situation or anything like it, but it's going to be something.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know.
And yeah, neither of them have ever said anything about that.
Right.
You know, it may be the farthest thing from their mind. I don't know. It's about me, if nothing else, what I know. But when as what was the saying, when I knew better, I did better. Of course, I won't have a chance to do that again, you know, but.
Right. Was that Maya Angelou? I think I read that.
No, I don't think that. I don't know where that came from. I just hear that when I know better, but sounds like something she was said.
Yeah.
Maybe she did. So, yeah. So that was the last question.
That was the last question.
Yeah. Well, good. All right. Well,
if you have any other questions, Adrienne Ross's Adrienne Ross Show audience, please send them in. I will be so happy to join her again.
Yeah.
These amazing questions to her.
Yes, I appreciate. I don't even know what your name is after this. Kiya, I really appreciate you doing this. Not just asking the questions, but also you chiming in on the questions as well. And so I just want to say to, everyone out there, thank you so much for those who sent in questions. And I hope that we did justice in addressing those questions. And if there's something that needs to be clarified, shoot me an email or anything, adriennerosscom@gmail.com. And I'd love to hear more from you. And I hope we get to do this ever so often, because I like this, I like the Q&A thing, So, all right. Well, I just want to say thank you again for tuning into the Adrienne Ross Show. Please be sure to go to thebmgnetwork.com. That is thebmgnetwork.com, and check out the other podcasts there. We are engaging, enlightening, informative, and even entertaining. So thank you for tuning in. Got some exciting things coming up, but we'll talk about that another time. So thank you for tuning in once again. I'll catch you the next time. God bless you abundantly. And thank you, Kiya Cordeau.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
All right. God bless you guys. The Adrienne Ross Show was produced and edited in the BMG studio. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod. Find more episodes of The Adrienne Ross Show at thebmgnetwork.com and major podcast platforms. Be sure to tune in regularly. You don't want to miss even one episode.